episode 2 of the Gear Talk podcast. We have a few talking points for this one, but you just got back from a big, long cross-country road trip.
Yes, I drove all the way down to Tennessee and went to off-road park called Windrock, and then we shot up to New York and saw Niagara Falls and went to Corning Museum of Glass and stuff like that. We did some traveling, about 800 gallons of fuel or something, all said and done, maybe a little more.
What was your average fuel economy in the Kodiak?
Oh, let's see. I think it was 9.2 calculated out. Yeah. So that's pretty good for
double towing.
Doubling, dragging. Yeah. Not over 26,000.
No, definitely below that standard.
Yeah. Actually, with fuel, I probably am just a touch below that, but it's getting close to that kind of weight. Yeah. But it did good.
And you rebuilt your diff before you went away?
I did. So I had this crazy idea that I'd just check everything out. You know, the truck I did change the diff oil in it once after I bought it 5 years ago or something, but the truck's over 10 years old now, and I'm pretty hard on it. So I thought I'd drain the fluid, maybe pop some stuff off, and expand our parts listing on the S110 for GM. I believe you were tearing apart the Ford and the Ford S110 and the Ram S111.
Yeah, it was good timing. It was right when I finished up doing those videos and got finished filming those, and that was the third in the big three.
Yeah. So I wanted to see what was the same. Turns out, besides the differential, not much.
No.
And I had a little over a month to go. I thought, I can do that, and I'll do a video of the front axle too, because I want to put the RCV shafts in it and just go through it. It's old. I did not change the fluid in that before. It doesn't have a drain on it. You got to remove the cover, and I just haven't done it. And I thought, I don't use the four-wheel drive a whole lot, but when I do, it's hard on it, and everything's always kind of turning from fluid friction anyway. So it'd be good to get in there, get it fixed up and expand our parts listings beyond what I already have. I did get another front axle a few years ago, and it's pretty well done there. But just to finalize everything, 08 and 09 is kind of some weird stuff. The numbers kind of drop off from the old stuff. Just eyeballing, I did see minor differences in like the brake shield, the dust shield for the brakes. Not fitment issues, just trimmed up a little different, or at least I don't think they're fitment issues. So I tear the rear axle apart. We do all the comparing on that. I put new bearings in it, set it back up. It did need differential bearings too, differential and pinion bearings. They were getting kind of shot. So I did that, and then we had those guys come for that transmission rebuild. Actually, I think my truck was still apart when we did that.
It was still apart when we did the long-range gear series.
So, that was a week that I didn't get anything done. Then I put it back together, and I took my time doing it to make sure I didn't have to get into it again. So another week goes by, and it's back together. And before you know it, 3 weeks have gone by. I'm leaving in a couple of weeks. I don't know if we can fit another chair in here.
I don't think we can. Not quite.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're okay.
Well, I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we might have
I really thought that was just Alex
Yeah.
being a fool.
So we'll have another speaker on here maybe if he's not on the phone when we get to a good spot. But anyway, I started this project, and I had a little over a month to do it. A few weeks get chopped up. I got 2 weeks left roughly before I gotta start hooking things together. And I thought, I can do the front axle. I got time. Well, I get to looking, and to spread the differential case, you do have to remove the axle housing from the truck because the spring is right in the way of where the case spreader has to go. I probably could have finagled it sideways. It may have hit the oil pan. It may not have. And I thought, that's maybe we're just not going to get into that. And I started thinking, it's got factory grease in these hubs. Maybe I should at least do that. So I did take the hubs off, and bearings looked fine, grease looked fine. So I just repacked the bearings and threw it back together. I did find a broken drive gear in one of the locking hubs. I think I know when that happened. Before I even made my first payment on that thing, I helped somebody haul a 16,000-pound air compressor up to Cook City in the fall, after the first snow up there. And it got a little wild towards the end where it had to go. So I think that's where I broke it, but I happen to have another gear from that other axle I got a few years ago, so I swapped that out. Just freshened the locking hubs up a little bit. Slapped it all back together. I got some nice paint on front and rear hubs. They're black, and then the axle flanges in the back, and the lockout hub cap, the body, not the dial, just the body cap, is International Red. And actually, it looks kind of snazzy on there, I think. I don't know. Maybe some people think it's tacky.
Yeah, we did there's a reel made of the color choice. If you follow us on Instagram, I'm sure you saw that one.
Yeah. I got that all done, and then I ended up having not a bunch of time, but enough time that I could have tore the axle out and put it back in and been fine. But I thought, let's just leave it there, and I ended up getting my trailers in and checking I had to check the bearings out and stuff on those. And
Yeah, the month of June was kind of crazy around here.
It was. But yeah, I got out of here on time, and I actually got to my destination early. We were going to stop a bunch of places on the way down. And we ended up only stopping a couple of places, really. One of them was this, it's an indoor and outdoor garden. The indoor was all tropical stuff. They had banana trees growing. And
That's cool.
I forget the name of the place. It was in Omaha. And they had, and then hashtag Nomaha. They had a bunch of garden gnomes that I guess a local artist made. And they had little books for kids. They had to go and find them and check them off. And
That's really cool.
yeah, it was pretty wild. Kids had a blast with that. And it was easy in the jungle. And then you go out back. They had a couple areas out back. One area was a little harder, and then the area in the back was the hardest. And I think we only found one out of, 20 or something. I think they had 20 in each area. We weren't looking too hard. The kids were pretty tired by the time we walked all the way to the back. And it was hot. It wasn't too bad. But I guess it was hard on the kids. We had to take a couple breaks walking back. Miserable place to get in with two trailers, though. I don't know how. Right there, there's a park right next to it with a big boy locomotive, and then I forget what the other locomotive is. They're right next to the interstate there, overlooking it. I don't know how they must have just dumped all the equipment off on the interstate to get all that stuff up the hill from the railroad tracks. There was no way they were trucking it in the way you get down into where it was.
Yeah.
That was almost a low-range situation trying to get out of it, but I got a little run, and I just held it in second and cooked up. But,
Oh, man.
yeah, it was pretty wild. And then we kept going, trying to take our time, and it was getting to be too hot and miserable and humid and stuff down there. So the other places I kind of wanted to maybe stop, we didn't. We checked into the campground a couple days early, and it gave us a little time. This was the first trip with a portable washing machine in the camper. We did our laundry. I got everything off the trailer that I needed. Just kind of got ready for the week of driving around in the middle of nowhere. So that was good we got there a couple days earlier. It gave me a little extra time.
Yeah, it's always nice when you're traveling and you have more time than you initially anticipated, because usually it's far from that.
It's never that way, no. And actually on the way back from New York, we stopped and saw a guy I used to work with years ago in Indiana. And in previous years when we go there, we either get there in the middle of the night or it takes us 2 days, but I don't remember exactly. The timing on both days just doesn't. We still get there in the middle of the night the second day, but we left pretty reasonable in the morning from outside of Buffalo and made it I guess we made it through, what is that? It's not Cincinnati. I forget what town in Ohio that, Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Made it through there at 8 o'clock at night or something. Pretty good. That's one of the best times I've gone through Cleveland. Just about no traffic. And a couple truck stops down, we stopped. You know, we could have kept going and still made it that day, but pretty close to midnight. But I thought, nah, just call it. We were so tired from, you know, the week of driving and then the week and a half driving around and doing all kinds of other stuff and fishing. And well, I was tired. Kids probably weren't tired from fishing, but they're so young. I spent all my time walking back and forth putting fresh worms on their hooks. So I didn't catch many. They had a blast. But yeah, overall for timing, worked out pretty good. When we first got to New York, I thought I was only going to be there really a few days before I come back. And my wife says, you know, well, we drove a week to get here. We drove a week there, or, you know, down in Tennessee. And, you know, if we're just here for a couple days, we're going to be driving for another week. And I thought, you know, you're right. So we took an extra week there outside of Buffalo there. And it worked out. I just spent a little bit longer, but my dogs were kind of floating around between different people's houses here. And I figured it was about time. Kids, they were ready to come home. They were glad to get home. My mechanical repairs, flawless.
Roxer made it unharmed for the most part.
For the most part, there's some new scratches and dents. One of the plastic fender flares just broke off a little bit more. There was a V-notch. I think I got it on the GoPro footage. I'll have to look. That thing was just narrow enough. I could either kind of straddle the V-notch, but if I fell in the wrong way, it was going to be a bad day. My cousin, his Jeep, he was straddling it, and it fell in the wrong way, and that took a while to get out. And there was the high side, but I could slide down and slam in, or slide a little bit and tip in, and I thought, you know, I'm just gonna ride it all the way through. There was a couple of newer Jeeps from relatives that went up, and they were wider, and they just perfect went up through. It pretty much tipped on its side, and I just drove on its side.
Drove out of it.
I went in with the lockers disengaged. I didn't get very far, and I look out, and both tires are just spinning, and so I lock them, keep going, look out again. Yeah, they weren't touching. Yeah, so got some scratches and dents from that. My parking brake cables, I had to redo them, take them apart. Yeah, they were pretty well seized up, all the mud and stuff. I sunk it pretty good. The starter, same thing. Had to take that apart. I got to put it back in, but I just finished putting it back together right before I came in here. Yeah, there was all kinds of mud. There was Indiana mud from 2 years ago in there.
Oh man.
Down in the bottom, and then there was the little bit thinner and oranger almost Tennessee stuff above that. So I figure if I got to take it apart every couple of years, it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. Not the end of the world by any means.
No. And transmission took on some water. I did find out today it wasn't through the vent that I modified to raise up higher. It was coming in around the tower boot. There's a little groove in the boot for a zip tie. Doesn't have a zip tie. That new one we got on the bench, that also doesn't have a zip tie.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, but anyway, I found where that leak came from, so I'll address that. But I had an extra 3 quarts of fluid in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't oil. But I let it drain a couple days and tried to flush it a little bit. It's kind of hard to, just the way it's set up. But I put fresh oil in it this morning. I'll drive it to town and back and drain it, fill it again. It should be about as good as it's ever going to get unless I tear it apart. But yeah, not really any mechanical failures other than just the filth getting into stuff.
filth and just probably normal maintenance
Uh,
for when you get home.
yeah,
Check your fluids.
yeah,
and
check the
See how
fluids.
things are looking. And
Yep. Actually, while I was gone, I was in New York, and we got a call from a guy. I ended up getting his number and talking to him while I was out there. He was from, I think, Missouri, and he flat-towed his rock sore up by Helena. Well, the front output shaft sheared off. There was water in his transfer case dragging it all that way, and
oh man,
yeah, that's on my list of stuff to do. I'm gonna reman that one, I think, and if everything else is good besides the input shaft, I got one of them sitting around here somewhere, or the front output shaft. But yeah, it was kind of weird. He had water problems. Unfortunately, he broke. We got him fixed up. We got him a new transfer case, and I had water problems. It's a good thing I didn't drive the Rockstars an hour to Niagara Falls, because I either would have done something bad to the transmission or it would have cooked the water out, but
yeah.
who knows. So, yeah, Rockstars are fun to take in the water, I guess. That's what you get from that.
You want to go into a little bit about your Rockster and what
Yeah.
you've done and why you've done what you've
Oh,
done?
I got a write-up. I put it on our website, but I don't think I made the page visible yet. But I spent a few hours writing that. But, yeah, so you take a bone stock rock store. It's like the old Jeeps, it's up from there. Even the new Jeeps, I guess. You buy a $60,000 Jeep, it's $5,000 suspension, bigger tires, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I started, the first off-road thing we did was at night, and it was raining. I got a Harbor Freight tarp to go over the top, and that kept most of the water out. And then me and the wife we stopped at Shields on the way out and got the fancy rain suits that they have. And, I still use that stuff in the winter and all that, but we got it just so we could do that. That was bone stock, and it did really well. Some of the places where it flexed out, it was wet and just couldn't get any traction. On the rocks was out there. He had to winch me up one spot. It was kind of a sideways and up, and so he got me up out of that. And other than that, I just pedaled to the metal and went through it. They don't make enough horsepower to brake too much unless it slams on something and locks up.
What gears did yours come with factory?
That was 373s is what they used to come with. Now they're 538s, which is actually what I went to in 2019. 2019? I had to be 2020. I probably bought them in 2019, but the thing sat on jack stands in our old location for 6 or 8 months. Axles all tore apart, transfer case out. I was going through bearings to get a good bearing kit for them. Transmission's next. That's why that one's on the table. But yeah, anyway, came time to move to this place. It was still on jack stands, so I put it back together just enough to get it on, to roll it out. That worked, and actually I had On the Rocks hooked me up with putting it all together. I had stuff labeled nice in boxes for them, so they knew what was what. I don't like taking half apart projects for somebody else to finish, but I did the best I could. We were moving into here. At the time they had time to fit me right in. So it got 538s. I would have went with 513s, but I couldn't find them. I don't think Spicer makes 513s anymore. I could have got Yukon or any other imported gear set, but I didn't want to have to do it again.
Yeah.
So I went with the Spicers. So they put that stuff in. Actually, before that, they did a stage 2 tune. They made a nice cab for me. What else did they do? The cab was first, yeah, and the tune. God, it's been so long ago now. They did a few things for me. And then I get it back and I'm off on vacation for a month, a week later. And then when we did the move, I took it to them and they did the gear set and a couple other things. And I was on vacation for a month then, too. And we went to Roush Creek in Pennsylvania for those couple of years. Yeah, after that, it's been back they put a nice roof rack on it. Actually, when I bought it from the local dealer here, I had them take it to On the Rocks, and they put their bumpers and they put little steps on for me. As before I had hip surgery, I had a hard time getting in and out of the thing, so they put a nice little rock rail step on for me. That worked good. What else they do? The taillight armor. God, I don't know. We just about have to do a walk around on that.
Yeah, well, we have to do a walk around, but
Yeah.
that's the basis of it. But in our talking points, we're talking about, like, what was your budget when you bought it, and then what did you budget all of your mods in with your initial price, or have them kind of planned out?
Yeah, so when we decided to buy it, I did want all this extra stuff, but at the time we were getting ready to buy this place. Well, we were shopping, so I needed extra cash. And I had most of those accessories, the bumpers and stuff, looped into the note. And, we didn't really have a budget. We just wanted to watch how much cash we were spending. And with a loan, there's a little bit down and then monthly payments. And that was easy. We could do that, no problem. Long-term budget, I didn't really have one. I mean, I figured as long as the monthly was where I needed it to be, that was fine. So we did that, got the basic stuff, and then it all went downhill from there. We saw what it could do with, with what I bought it with. And then, okay, well, we bought the house. Now we're going to go on vacation. We need this money for vacation, but I got this extra and I'd really like this stuff. I don't remember numbers. I just had to do some thinking of just doing a little bit at a time. What was most important? Not necessarily what was cheapest, what was most important. Skid plates and stuff like that, pretty important.
Yep.
A cab, that was pretty important. And mine did come with the HVAC in it. So, it's comfort all year round. And then a lot of what I had to think about was, yes, I can get these imported things for fairly cheap, like axle shafts or something.
Mm-hmm.
But do I really want to rely on that? Now, if I was just kind of putting around every now and then on Forest Service roads out here, driving it to town, that stuff would probably be fine. But I'm going to use the thing. It doesn't matter if it's an off-road vehicle or if it's a work truck. How hard are you going to work the thing? It really kind of dictates what you want to budget for it. So, say the front axle shafts, instead of just getting the chrome moly ones that On the Rock sells that are from Yukon, which I don't know for sure that they're imported. I'd have to talk to them about it. But I know most things from Yukon are imported. It was either that, which wasn't too bad, or RCVs, which were quite a bit more. And I thought, well, I don't really want to have to worry about it. So I went the RCV route. I did break an outer shaft, but everything was contained. I could still drive out. I still helped a Jeep in front of me blew both diffs. And once they got him out, there was a Cherokee pulling him out, but there was some places they needed some help. So I got in front of them and either winched or pulled or drug trees out of the way. I still drove out. I drove it around for a little while after that, to town and back. I thought it was one of the mile marker locking hubs because they do break. They're
Yep.
imported. No, it was just the way that they made the RCV shaft in the 10 spline was that way. I'm going to get the 27 splines someday, maybe the next time I break one, I don't know. But they're a bigger diameter, so I shouldn't have any issues there. And then it's also where do you want to put your weak point. U-joints on like an axle shaft or something are a pretty good weak point. If something's going to fail, you kind of want it to be that because you don't have to get real deep into it to do it. But, I've got a bigger turbo and a tune, and I can put a little power down to everything, but the components aren't so dinky that things really should break unless I shock load. But then if you anything will break if you shock load it hard.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the mindset, I don't want to take this stuff off again just to change this part because I didn't get the best thing that I could. And, like I said, if you're not really using something, if it's just kind of a weekend vehicle or a couple times a year or, something that doesn't get driven very hard, the quality of the parts doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, it's the price versus performance metric,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Is what you're talking about.
Essentially, yeah. Even the wheel bearings, the factory wheel bearings, they usually last a while, but they do not look good after not very many miles. The factory bearings in the Roxor, for example, are from India. They work as long as you keep the water and dirt out of them. They go, I won't say they'll last as long as a Timken. I don't know if anybody knows yet. I don't think anybody has 100,000 miles on a factory Roxor yet. But I didn't want to have to worry about them, so I put Timkins in. The seals, actually same with the spindle seals, the material is kind of brittle. You could kind of fold it with your fingernail and it would just tear. Where any other seal we got on the shelf here, it's rubber, it's flexible, it's going to bend. So I come up with an upgrade for that. It took some time, but I haven't had any issues, and all kinds of people have issues with the factory setup. So, on that vehicle, I had to identify what could be a weak point. When I bought that, there wasn't enough out there yet. Factory axle shafts was kind of a thing. Water in the wheel bearings was the thing. At the time, there wasn't much else, so I was going through and just identifying. And actually, the drive shafts I thought were a little kind of rinky-dink. Only 2 inches of travel, I think I measured, or inch and 7/8 and 2 1/4 or something like that for travel for the front and rear. So I came out with better drive shafts for that, using the same size joint, but I haven't had any drive shaft failures that I've heard about. Versus factory, they do sometimes go to heck. There's not too much else I identified as weak points besides mostly just bearings and a couple of the shafts, drive shafts and axle shafts are just a little small for what I thought it should be. But that's what we came up with.
Yeah, we made a video on the axle shafts.
Mm-hmm.
Put them in the lathe and saw how poor they were actually designed.
Yeah, I did.
Or not designed, but built.
Yeah, they just weren't cast quite right. And then the holes were, the yoke forging is heavy on one side, and it wasn't exactly square where they drilled the holes for the joint caps either, so you get some wobbling. And we've had pretty good success, as far as I know, with just getting good U-joints in those. The inner axle shafts will flex enough to take it, but the factory U-joints are just, somebody melted down a butter bolt and hammered it into a cross and put some caps on it, basically, that stuff works real good for India. They're driving, 30 miles an hour everywhere. Most of the places they go, they do have their highways, but, most of it is just kind of putting around and not really hammering on stuff too hard. But what they do hammer on, the vehicles over there don't make enough power to exceed the capacities, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an interesting journey trying to bulletproof a vehicle, an imported vehicle at that, I guess.
Yeah, that is kind of a Jeep, but not really a Jeep.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's very, very similar to, Willys all the way up to, CJ era. After you get over, beyond that, there's, that's all different for Jeep. But, a lot of similarities. So it was actually pretty easy for us to come up with these replacement parts. None of it's direct cross. You got some years over here for this part and some years over here for this part, but they're on the same part, or the same piece in the Roxor, and it just takes time, to identify stuff. But that's like anything. Even the new stuff we take apart, it takes time to find out what it is, and if it's if that replaceable piece is backwards compatible or forwards compatible or anything like that. It keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we have a long list of things
yes,
to do, and
and it's getting longer every day.
yeah, it is.
Let me move this.
All right. Take a break.
No. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. I can't see it.
All right.
And we're back.
So we're back. So you went through some of your mods, kind of your budget in mind, and kind of how you built your budget based upon you wanted some of the highest performing parts so that you could use it as much as possible.
Yes.
That's what would seem to be really important. Was that your biggest goal?
The biggest goal was I wanted to go anywhere I wanted to go. Climbing up rock walls and stuff. I've done some, but not like buggies go up, I wanted to be able to do some of that. If I want to go up this road or trail or whatever, I want to do it. I don't want to have to worry about breaking down. So the goal was be able to drive it home every day, as long as I don't get too ridiculous with whatever I'm driving through. And also, if something does break, it's not going to take out other parts. Like, say, the drive shaft. If I lost the drive shaft, what else is it going to take out when it goes around? So, caging those maybe on the list, but we'll just see more preventative stuff, I guess. Just the better bearings, better seals, just the better parts. So I don't have to worry about it. But if something does break, like say it doesn't work good for the Mahindra example. I guess it does for, say, just the regular chromoly shafts from Yukon or something, or from On the Rocks has made. I think Yukon made them. If a joint breaks in those, it probably won't mess with the forgings too much.
Yeah.
The factory shafts, once that joint goes, you probably lost both inner and outer shaft. They just break right off and bend. So there are some in between steps. You can upgrade and not get, the highest tier stuff, but it won't necessarily, something around it fails, it won't cannonball everything else around it. It's different with every little component on a vehicle, but the goal should be you don't want to have to do it again.
Yeah.
So you kind of build it to what you think you're going to use it for and go from there. There's been a lot of other projects I've had. I kind of build something up, but then I ended up using it a little bit differently, so I redo stuff. And anymore, I just go full tilt. If I think I might do something, even if I haven't done it before, I haven't done it in forever, I'm just going to build it so I can do that. It's not in everybody's budget, but it is something that everybody should think about.
Yeah. And I think that should also play a role in the vehicle buying process.
It should.
Like the specific use of your vehicle, not just your daydream use of like, I'm going to drive to the top of a mountain, but like it's everyday use.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously your Roxor's everyday use, 90% of the time is off-road.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really street-driven, hardly at all. You drop your kids off once in a while.
Yeah, or I'll drive it to town to get, pick something up or drop something off. I would drive it more, but I don't know why I don't. I just got so many vehicles in my fleet. I got to drive. I got to keep them rotated. But yeah, you should definitely think about what you're going to be using the vehicle for. Say a work truck, for example. A farmer, rancher, or even a contractor or whatever, they need a new truck. What are they going to do with it? Are they just driving back and forth to the job site? Are they just driving around a field, rolling off a bale of hay, or what are they doing? The farmer rancher kind of guy, he might get some other piece of equipment stuck way out in the middle of nowhere and have to haul it out, and he's going to be putting some pressure on that vehicle. And say the contractor, well, he's just putting toolbox in it and stuff. Well, what happens if they got to haul a big air compressor somewhere, up a mountain.
I think it's extra important to take even better care of your vehicle and have parts that are going to last, because a day without a truck will cost you money.
It costs a lot of money, and usually it's never just a day that you're without a truck.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, it's just a day, but
When your livelihood depends on it, it's extra important.
yes, it is. Sometimes it does hurt to do it right the first time, but if you don't have to do it again, how much money did that save you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do it cheap the first time, and you can do it twice or three times.
You can do
Or
it
you
more
can-
than that.
Yeah, or you can end up doing it right the first time and never be back into that particular part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as an example, I got some name brand ball joints. It was when I was down in California. They were, I want to say the M name, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, they were pretty reputable, made in USA. Nowadays, there's plenty of stuff online you can find where they're not as good as what they used to be. But this was almost 15 years ago now. Yeah, well, somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, when they were still supposed to be a decent thing. I got 15,000 miles out of a set of ball joints. When I replaced the factory set, it was 120 something miles on them.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of I wasn't really in a pinch down there. They wasn't falling apart, but my tires were starting to tuck a little bit. So I just did it with what I had easily available. And it was cheap. I didn't have a lot of extra money at the time, so it worked out, But then I had to do them again. And I did not put the same product back in. I put the OE parts back in it. And I just grabbed them off the shelf and put them in. But it's been, I got over 200,000 miles on the vehicle, so around 125 plus 15, and then from there to was it 140? Yeah, to over 200,000. There's over 60,000 on the ball joints, factory ball joints again now. I haven't had to worry about them. Luckily, I don't use my vehicle for work, and I've always kind of lived at work in one shape or form, or at least in walking distance. So a vehicle down for me hasn't really been an issue as far as needing it to get to work or to work with, if it's a construction crew or something that has a
Mm-hmm.
vehicle. But you got to think about that. It's kind of a pay now or pay later kind of thing, or it ends up being what it ends up being is the worse you need it, the worse you get it, or something like that is what they say. But it is definitely cheaper to spend the extra money to get something quality and do the job once than have to rinky-dink around for as long as you want to rinky-dink around with. That's probably why half the old vehicles get sold.
Mm-hmm.
Why people sell them. Oh, this thing's a piece of junk. This stuff keeps breaking. Well, where are you shopping, is the first question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I figure if, we've got warranties on stuff here, but I figure if people are really pushing the warranties, you got to question why.
Yeah.
Don't worry. When it does break within the warranty period, we got you. No, I just want it to work.
I don't want to do the same job 15 times.
No. You get good at doing it, but it does get kind of tiring.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you definitely need to think about what you want to do with the vehicle, how much you want to work on it. And then, there is the examples like, race guys. They will put a weak link in somewhere, like a U-joint or something will be a little undersized.
Or hubs.
Yeah. If you're doing some crazy stuff and you want a weak link so that some of your other real fancy billet, custom, whatever parts don't break, yeah, by all means, put a weak link in there. It is okay to cheap out on stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is okay, if you're not really using the vehicle, maybe you don't have to spend that extra few dollars. But you got to think about it. If you are going to be using that vehicle, you probably want to use it when you want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of old trucks sitting in fields that are on their 5th or 6th set of ball joints, or had U-joints go bad over and over again, and they're like, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Had enough, or won't stop leaking oil because it got cheapo
Something, yeah.
seals or...
There's been plenty of axles and stuff we take apart. They got like brand new brakes and brand new bearings and stuff in them, fresh grease. Why the heck did they junk the truck? Maybe, obviously some other failure, but, once you go all the way, if you can do it, once you go all the way through a vehicle, it's going to last you, however many years old that vehicle is, it's going to last you that long.
Yeah.
So if you do it right. Yeah, it falls down, and everybody's budget's different. That's kind of where it falls into is people don't always have the money for the good stuff, which, I mean, that's fine. A lot of it, though, unfortunately, is people aren't aware of there is a quality difference in these things. What? What? I'm in the box. We're doing a video. What do you want? I'll be out in a little bit. Okay. Anyway,
We're back from our break now.
unfortunately, most of it isn't whether or not people can afford the highest quality stuff or even mid-tier. There's all kinds of tiers of different things. It's the education. They see, say, this cup. It's $1 at the dollar store. Or the same cup is $25 at Walmart or something. Cup's probably not the best example, but say the dollar store one, it's not really gonna, you can't do that and not spill your drink, whereas the Walmart one you can, but it's a cup, and it's $1 or $25. That's the same with, bearings. You can get a $10 bearing from, a chain store, or, that same bearing might be $35 from us or something. And it's the same fitment application, but it's not the same bearing. And there's just an education gap, I think, that is just as much, or as maybe even a little more of an issue than someone's financial standing.
Yeah, I'd say education definitely plays a really big role in that. I've seen it a lot working in shops and stuff, because I worked in shops where it was both sides of the coin, where one was like, we do everything right the first time. If you don't like it, you can do it yourself. But we stand behind what we do because we stand by the parts that we install.
Yep.
And the other guy was like, yeah, I'll cut you a deal.
Yeah, they're cutting a deal, all right.
Yeah, they're cutting you a deal until you got to do it again.
Yeah, and like say in our market, MV 4500, reman MV 4500 transmissions. There's a lot of places doing it. Some places are more than other places. You got to wonder why. And if you look on, say, eBay, there's tons of MV 4500 rebuild kits. A lot of them are really cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And then, say our MV, the master kit that's got everything it's around $1,000 or something now versus, you wouldn't get everything with an eBay kit because none of them have everything. Even bits and pieces, nobody's got everything on eBay. You might hit 500. You might have probably around 350 for a rebuild kit. But it's not the same thing. And, our salesman, Chris, before he started working here.
He has lived this one out.
Yes, he has. He didn't have second gear for a year on an eBay parts rebuild. And there was some other problems he ended up finding in it.
And then when you do that, other things fail as well.
Yes.
So a bearing eats up or destroys itself, nukes your whole trans. You ruin a main shaft. You ruin so many other parts that were good quality OEM parts, and you end up diving so much deeper. and probably buying the same kit and more cheap parts, and it just continues down this line until you get rid of it.
It's into the abyss.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gone away forever from that point, it seems.
Yeah, and then, whereas you buy, not necessarily from us, from anybody, a top tier, whatever you're getting, suspension, transmission stuff, engine stuff, when you get the top tier, that stuff you can count on. You don't have to worry about, something.
The people who make the top tier always stand behind their products,
They
too.
do, yeah, they do. But they don't, they do stand behind it, but they don't, a lot of them, well, some of them do flaunt it, as far as a marketing perspective. But a lot of them are just, kind of humble. We got this, you won't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
kind of
we
thing.
know it's not going to break,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't need to advertise that because the people who know. We
Yeah,
have a good enough
yeah.
market.
Word of mouth is going to be much better than somebody on the other end of the phone or the other end of a TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Get this stuff. Well, okay, I'm not saying that all those commercials are wrong, but word of mouth is definitely going to sell, have a company sell more parts than any kind of advertising they can.
Mm-hmm. Even podcasts.
Even podcasts. But you have to buy our parts here anyway.
Yeah. If you buy our parts, we can continue to do this podcast.
Yeah.
So we've gone through pretty much everything on our talking points. We have one talking point left: tire size.
So tire size, it does play a lot into wear and tear on a vehicle. Bigger tires are going to float a little more. You may or may not get some more ball joint wear or kingpin wear or whatever the case may be. If you're pulling heavy with big tires, there's going to be a little more wear and tear on everything.
Everything in the drivetrain.
You can re-gear to get your RPMs back, but you still got the leverage of a big tire. That's why a lot of the Class 8 trucks, just the general run-of-the-mill, cheaper trucks, have the smaller tires. Is not as much wear and tear on everything. Once you get into the big, heavy-haul trucks, they got bigger tires. Of course, they got a lot bigger stuff inside of them, too, to support that. But it goes all the way down to a regular vehicle. It's just leverage. With the Roxor, use that for an example again. People have tie rod issues with 37-inch and taller tires. I'm at 35. I haven't had any issues yet, and maybe one or two guys just rock bouncing have had tie rod issues. But there's just a single example of a component failure once you get so big on your tire size.
Yeah, it plays a big role in braking, acceleration, and unsprung weight in general just plays a huge role in the way that your vehicle feels and handles.
It does. It does.
And picking tire size is a really crucial part, I think, especially if you're going off-road.
It is. Even on-road, say my 5500, if I put bigger tires on that with the factory leaf springs, it'd ride a lot better. But I lose, I'd have to re-gear everything because I don't want to lose my RPM. And that thing's built enough that bigger tire size, if I got back into the RPM range I wanted, all the components for that vehicle are built enough for what I want to do. If I want to hook up to a bull wagon or something and move cows back and forth, that's not going to be enough truck. Bigger tires are not. But for what I'm using it for, if I did go bigger tires, it'd be fine. And that is the case for a lot of people, and that's not the case for a lot of other people. They do want a better ride, and so they'll go a little bigger. Maybe they want the look. I don't know. A lot of people want the look of the tires and wheels, and some of those wheels are rated for like 2,200 pounds or something, and then they're hooking a big trailer onto the back.
Yeah, wheels are a whole other topic.
They are, and they're not even our.
That's not even something we specialize in, but I'm a big fan of factory wheels because factory wheels are overbuilt for that chassis because the OEM that's such a crucial part. OEM manufacturers want nothing to do with that.
Yep. That's
so their wheels have to be strong.
Yes, they do. And the tires, too. They got to be rated for whatever's on the door sticker.
Mm-hmm.
But, that is something people change, and they don't always look at that. There's people running around in trucks like my 5500 with different wheels to put passenger tires on them because they ride better than the 19.5s or the 21.5s, 22.5, all the half sizes of tires. They do ride better. But what's the weight capacity? Most of them, they're just show trucks or whatever. They're not doing much with them. That's fine. That's perfect. But the guys that are doing stuff with them, they might not have even thought of a weight rating. Oh, they look good and it rides nice.
Yeah, I had a friend buy a set of 22s. They were a decent brand wheel. I don't remember what exactly they were. Some big chromes, but they were 8x170, and he's putting them on a Power Stroke. And took them into the tire shop with a set of Pirellis he had bought used. The guy at the tire shop goes, "These for a truck, aren't they?" He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Not a chance."
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah.
I was like, that's respectable.
Yeah. That would have been an accident waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah. And he had a 40-foot gooseneck he towed with that truck.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pirelli tires are car tires. A lot of tires are car tires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If they came factory on a half-ton truck, they're car tires. They're getting bigger and bigger wheel diameter now, but they're still car tires. So, unfortunately, that's just, sometimes you gotta go with the rougher ride or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
there are limitations to the niceties that you could have.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And there's a sacrifice with every vehicle you're going to pick.
Mm-hmm.
You got to choose what's most important to you and what its actual use is going to be.
Mm-hmm. If you're pulling a lot, you want to get something that's pretty heavy duty from the factory. There's only so much you can upgrade, like in a pickup or something. That you could put different axle housings in it from something bigger, but it's
If you're using it for intense, like towing all the time and stuff, you run out of chassis at a point.
you do. You're almost better off with something medium duty.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping that, or 450, 550, 4500, 5500 range, which
Before
is borderline medium duty.
really got into this stuff, I always thought like there wasn't that big of a difference between F350s, 450s, and 550s.
Mhm.
After seeing the axles, there's a massive difference.
There is, yes.
Like the biggest axle the 1-tons get is like 11 3/4,
Mm-hmm.
and then the ones for the S110, S111, all those 450, 550 axles are like a 13 and a half.
Mhm.
And they're massive.
They are.
The pinions are so much big. Everything about those differentials is made to take
It's like 50% bigger or
Yeah.
beefier in some shape or form, yeah.
big time. And the front axles are also completely different.
They are.
They're huge.
Mm-hmm.
They're way overbuilt for that truck because they know it's going to get put in a commercial application with way too much weight on it.
Yep.
Well, way too much weight for a 1-ton.
Well, yes. Yeah, that just comes back to you gotta know what you're gonna do with the truck. Yeah, some of that stuff might cost more. If you don't have that vehicle already, it might cost more to get into it. You're not gonna have as much downtime because you're not gonna be breaking axle housings and, shedding your transmissions and there's,
Yeah.
the list just goes on.
And those trucks typically come with a lot lower gears, but because they have such a big ring gear, you don't lose any strength
No,
to having
you
a
don't.
much higher.
You don't, no. And a lot of them,
Gear ratio.
most of them come detuned too, and that's by design. Yes, you can put them back to what a factory pickup is or higher, but there's a reason why they detune them. It's not to slow you down. It's so that they don't have as many warranties because they know if it's loaded up at what they say it's going to be loaded up as, and then it's drugged through a construction site that's, half mud and half rock and all this, they don't want to have to worry about a truck breaking on one of their customers.
Well, Jesse, we're almost at an hour in,
I think that'll probably
I think-
work. I think we lost both of these cameras here.
but we got that one rolling. Mics are still on and working. So I guess we'll call it on this Gear Talk podcast. It's episode number 2. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.